A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I warmly welcome you all to the International Women's Day 2022 on the theme, Promoting Women Entrepreneurship Development, organized by the Women's Development Activities Committee of CMA Sri Lanka, the national professional accounting body in Sri Lanka, incorporated by an Act of Parliament. Today's event starts with the welcome address, which will be delivered by Ms. Dashini Vatawala, Associate Director, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and the keynote speech will be delivered by Ms. Anujidi Silva, Partner, Ernst & Young, Sri Lanka. And this will be followed with the panel discussion moderated by Ms. Shamila Kure, Manager, Operations, WNS Global Services Private Limited, and the panelists are Ms. Chandi Maranasinghe, co-founder of Nasta Foods Private Limited, Ms. Ranga Stephen Rodrigo, Partner Rodriguez, Ms. Hiruni Vithanage, Directress Remarco Bakers, Ms. Dashika Vikramasinghe, co-founder Vishya Group of Companies, Ms. Shamian Palambage, Principal, Stepping Stones Montessori, and Mr. Takia Hoshino, Financial Sector Specialist, Asian Development Bank. I also warmly welcome CMA President, Professor Lakshman Vatawala, President of SAFA and Vice President of CMA, Mr. Henayaka Bandara, Council members, members of CMA, invitees, ladies and gentlemen. To commence the program, I have pleasure in inviting Ms. Dashi Vatawala, Chairperson of CMA Sri Lanka Women's Development Activities Committee, to deliver the welcome address and the introduction to today's topic. Ms. Dashini Vatawala is an associate member of CMA Sri Lanka, a fellow member of CA Sri Lanka, also a graduate with BSc First Class Honors degree in Mathematics and Statistics from University of Colombo, and Associate Director of PricewaterhouseCoopers. Ms. Dashini Vatawala has 20 years of post-qualification experience in auditing, finance, corporate reporting, and hedge fund administration in Sri Lanka, the Cayman Islands, and Bahamas. Ms. Dashini Vatawala, I'm honored to invite you to deliver the welcome address. Over to you, madam.
Thank you and good afternoon to everyone. Professor Lakshman Vatawala, President of CMA Sri Lanka, Mr. Henayaka Bandara, Vice President of CMA Sri Lanka and President of SAFA, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to welcome you today to celebrate International Women's Day with CMA Sri Lanka. Our discussion today will focus on the theme of promoting women's entrepreneurship development. Entrepreneurship is seen as a catalyst to economic growth. In this context, the growth of small and medium enterprises becomes important, as this sector includes 90% of the establishments in our country, employing approximately 45% of the workforce. Women entrepreneurs account for only 25% of these establishments. Promoting the development of women entrepreneurs will pave the way for these women to take forward their businesses successfully and encourage other women to follow in their stead, challenging existing cultural norms and navigating through practical difficulties of running and managing a business. As the national professional management accounting body in Sri Lanka, CMA Sri Lanka's programs are geared to assist businesses, especially in the cost and management accounting and financial accounting fields, which are vital to the success of any entrepreneur. So let me now warmly welcome our keynote speaker, Ms. Anujidi Silva. Anuji is a partner at Ernst & Young Sri Lanka and has been from 2003. She also serves as the chairperson of the Women's Chamber of Industry and Commerce. Chamila Kure will be moderating the panel discussion today. She has been involved in this event with CMA Sri Lanka for several years and will undoubtedly once again guide the panel onto a very interesting discussion. Our panel consists of 5 women entrepreneurs in their own right, and we look forward to hearing about their experiences, their successes, challenges, and opportunities. We also have in our panel Mr. Takuya Hoshino from the ADB, an organization which has continuously promoted women's entrepreneurship in Sri Lanka. and CMA Sri Lanka looks forward to support and work with them in the future. We are also delighted to have the President of SAFA, Mr. Henanayaka Bandara, present at our webinar today. SAFA will also be celebrating International Women's Day, which will be represented by CMA Sri Lanka as well. And today, CMA Sri Lanka will be launching their program on cost accounting literacy for women, which will be an online course conducted in English, Sinhala, and Tamil languages. I'm sure this will be a very useful course for entrepreneurs as it covers various elements of costs, pricing, and IT skills, among others. Without further ado, let's now begin the afternoon's program, which will undoubtedly be an insightful and productive one. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. Next on agenda is the keynote speech by Ms. Anujidi Silva, partner at Ernst & Young Sri Lanka. Ms. Anujidi Silva is a practicing accountant and a fellow member of CA Sri Lanka and has extensive experience of over 30 years as a financial professional and the current chairperson of the Women's Chamber of Industry and Commerce, and also a council member of CA Sri Lanka and chairperson of CA Women Empowerment and Leadership Development Committee and the alternative chairperson of CA SME Task Force. Ms. Anujidi Silva was the 2018 Women Top 50 Gold winner in the Financial Services category and the CMA Professional Excellent Award winner in 2019. I consider it a great honor to welcome Ms. Anujidi Silva to deliver the keynote speech. Over to you, Madam.
Thank you. Professor Lakshman R. Vatawala, President CMA Sri Lanka, and Mr. Henanayaka Bandara, SAFA President and Vice President CMA Sri Lanka, Ms. Darshini Vatawala, CMA Sri Lanka Women Development Committee, fellow panel members and the moderator, and also ladies and gentlemen. So firstly, let me thank you for giving me the opportunity to address all of you. So I'm not an entrepreneur, and I'm sure there are very illustrious entrepreneurs. I can see some very strong ladies who are there. I guess the only reason why I'm doing this session is the objective is to really talk to the accounting fraternity about the opportunities we have to be either entrepreneurs or to help entrepreneurs. And so what I'm coming from is from what I have seen, because I do interact with a lot of very engaging and very amazing entrepreneurs. So what I will bring to you today is actually that knowledge that I have gained by doing that, so that I think as a profession, CMA can also think about ways that we can really help the entrepreneurs, either by being entrepreneurs. I think Chandima is one who's a CMA member who's now an entrepreneur. So we have, I'll talk a little bit more about that. So that's really where I'm coming from. The actual insights on the entrepreneurship, I'm sure Shamila will bring out during the panel discussion. So first, what I would like to draw all of your attention is the potential versus reality. The potential of women to be entrepreneurs in this country and where we are today. So if I'm sure all of you are aware, 52% of our population is female. And also university, I mean, the average we take up is 60%, but in some sectors, it goes up to about 80%. So the literacy rates of the female in this country are very, very high. So that the general indication that should give you is that in Sri Lanka, we should be, we have a fantastic talent pool, which can end up as entrepreneurs or end up in the corporate sector, serving these entrepreneurs and helping them to grow and scale in their businesses. So that when you look at these statistics, that probably is what you have, because I think we have the type of statistics very few countries have in our region. If you look at any other countries in our region, these statistics are not there. They are much lower in the female population. They are much lower in the literacy rate. But unfortunately, if you look at the reality, our contribution as a percentage to the labor force is only 35.6%, which is one of the lowest in the region. If you look at Singapore, Singapore has about 58%, Thailand has 64.3%, Nepal 79%, China 63%, even India is 44%, Bangladesh 57%, Malaysia 44%, Japan 48%, and we are the last in the list at 35.6%. Plus also, if you see the SME sector, the sector is a very, very vital sector to our economy. I always say that even though the bigger companies are also always celebrated and recognized by everyone, this is a sector, this is the bloodline that keeps the economy going, right? Because 52% of the GDP of our country and about half of the country's employment is provided by the SME sector. In this sector, what we have is only 25% of the entrepreneurs are considered to be women in the SME sector. A data which I'm not very sure how accurate that is, because in my opinion, I think there is a lot of women entrepreneurs who are not recognized because they're probably not in the formal registered, under the formal registered businesses. Because if you see, there are a lot of women entrepreneurs who probably don't have a proper business registration and who are not registered as entrepreneurs, which in my opinion is probably why this number is very low. But that also brings in a need why they are not. Why aren't they registered? Why are they not part of the statistics? So as I think financial professionals is also one area that we can actually help out, because some of them are not aware of the process. Some of them don't really know how to get about it. And as finance professionals who are serving in this sector, I think this is one area with our help, I am quite confident that we can push this number up. So when it comes to our choices as finance professionals, I think because of the skill set that we possess, we've got a very, very solid and a diverse business skill set. That is, we understand a lot of industries. During our accountancy studies, we go and get practical experience in different industries. Plus also, we are very good in our numbers. We have the finance literacy. We know how to do costing. We know how to do project management. We know how to do preparation of financial statements. So because of that, in my opinion, we have two broad choices. One is whether you want to be an entrepreneur, a finance person. I'm sure we'll hear more from Chandima later, because when you start with finance and you go into entrepreneurship, that's a fabulous skill set that you can have, because nobody can play around with your numbers. That's one area where a lot of entrepreneurs get into trouble, not really understanding their income and expense and how the numbers are related to each other. But when you come from that finance background and become an entrepreneur, you have that very strong skill set. But at the same time, when I think back of the entrepreneurs I've interacted with, there are certain very unique skill sets and attributes that they have. So I thought I'll just highlight a few of those to you, so that any one of you who are thinking of the choice then also can think of whether you have these attributes. And I'm sure the entrepreneurs who are out here also can add more as to what other things that they feel are important. So first is, I think, the idea, the business idea, because what I've seen is all the entrepreneurs who lasted long and who actually managed to grow and scale, their motivation to start the business has never been to make money. It has always been to solve a problem or to cater to a need, not to make money, because they are very passionate, and their passion has always been to address a need in the market. And that's what gives them that idea that makes them really passionate and want to start the business. And also the attitude. If you interact with entrepreneurs, you'll understand that they don't like the word no. I don't think no is in their vocabulary much. Every single one of them, they ask, for them, no is, what I've realized is that for them, no is just another opportunity to think how to better themselves. So if you say no, they'll go back, change their pitch again, come back to you again and say, okay, now listen to me, this is my idea, now what do you say? So they are very persistent. They don't take no for an answer, and that's one quality I've seen right across in all entrepreneurs. And also, I think now as accountants, we have this thing, we think we either win or fail. But, and then failure generally is a bit of a setback for us. We get very, very upset, and it takes us a while to get over failures. But what I've also seen in entrepreneurs is failure is also not something that they consider as a bad thing. Sometimes they consider that a very good learning experience, which helps them to be stronger and also helps them to be a better entrepreneur. And also, I've always seen them extremely curious. You just have a normal conversation with them. It's amazing the amount of ideas that they get out of that conversation, and the amount of new thinking that they have, which they then come and talk to me and say, okay, you said this, and I think I can do a good business with this. And they come and discuss that, which I find amazing, because somehow I think that's a fantastic skill. I guess you, when you're in that space, I guess that's something that you develop. But I've always found them to be very curious and also very quickly adapting to change, very quickly adapting and take the corrective actions quite fast. And also they have a very strong belief in their gut instinct. They believe that if they feel something is right, they don't let numbers stop them. They will keep pushing you till you find a way while mitigating risks also, to get them to the place that they want to be. So they are all also very good at trusting their gut instincts and not just relying on numbers and charts. Then the skill set. If you talk to entrepreneur, you'll see they're always selling, right? They send you a message, there's a sales pitch in there. That's a skill they have, because sales is what finally matters. So you're always thinking of anyone you meet, you try to sell. Whether it works or not is not the problem, you try to sell, right? And also communication. They're very good at communication, and they're very good at focusing and picking what is relevant for them to succeed. And the other thing I've noticed in entrepreneurs is amazing ability to build relationships. They build relationships which are long-term relationships, and they're excellent at networking, because I think when you're a business person, you have to have that network. It's that network that gets you someplace and helps you to succeed. So they network very well. All the entrepreneurs I know, I mean, they keep reaching out to me, even if I don't contact them for a long time. They keep reaching out to me, and they are the first to reach out. They don't forget you, because if they feel that they keep you in your network, and also anytime they need help, then they know that they have a strong network they can rely on. Then also, I think as an entrepreneur, they also have to focus on acquiring the right business acumen. And one way you can do it is by joining the relevant chambers. For example, if you're a woman, I always say this, women don't have a natural network, because I think all the gentlemen have their majority, 90% of their school friends in the business world. We have 10% of our school friends, if you are lucky, in the business world, which we can talk to about business. So because of that, women have this added burden on building business networks. So for example, the Women's Chamber, one of the purposes of the Women's Chamber is to build a female network for the women who are in business, because that's also important. Then you kind of can relate to each other. You can get advice, because business means you can't forget your life. So sometimes how even simple things like how to balance life and business, how to get a proper balance. And there are certain things you feel comfortable talking to another businesswoman. Then also you have supporting business networks, because depending on the business you are in, now if you are an exporter, you have to join the Chamber of Exporters, because that will give you the network, and also they will share information with you which is relevant to you. If you're in the apparel chamber, there is a Chamber of Apparel Industries, then National Chamber of Commerce, Ceylon Chamber of Commerce. So these are all the networks that you have to be in if you are an entrepreneur. And also you have to keep learning the required skills. For example, even a simple thing like how to interpret your balances, and you have to keep learning. So these are some of the things for the members out there who are thinking of entrepreneurs. Some of the things I have seen that to make a good entrepreneur, some of the attributes that you need. Then if you are thinking of being a service provider, if you're thinking of a service provider, I think the right skill set is the most critical thing. You can't go to a new entrepreneur and ask them to put a system like SAP into their run their business, because that does not work. If you go to a startup, you have to learn, adapt your skill set to talk to the startup so that you help the startup to grow and scale. But as you go on, you can you need different skill sets as you go on, and as the entrepreneur grows and scales, your skill sets also become more sophisticated. But remember, taking some time to identify what is the right skill set that is needed for this entrepreneur. Is it your basic skills? And I think if you're dealing with entrepreneurs, your basic accounting skills are very, very important. Before you go to data analytics, before you go to project management, all that, you need to first get them to understand how to maintain proper sets of accounts, how to do a proper costing. So your basic skill set is very critical when you're dealing with entrepreneurs, because you have to start from there and then keep introducing the more complicated skill sets. Then also when you're dealing with entrepreneurs, your communication skills matter, because you can't talk accounting language to them. You have to talk to them. It takes a lot of convincing to talk to entrepreneurs. I've said this story before, because one of the most difficult things I find is telling them that they need to pay attention to their financial statements, because it takes them a lot of time to accept that, because they always say, okay, I've hired somebody, it's their job, not my job. My job is to sell and run the business. But if you do that and you don't pay attention to your financials, you find without your knowledge, what you're selling is not what is actually reflected in your financials. So you need to have good communication skills to make them understand in a way they understand. You can't go and talk accounting to them. You need to also practice the proper way to talk to these entrepreneurs. Then also they are interested in building a long-term relationship, and they will not trust you immediately. It takes time to get their trust, and so that they talk to you and they share their ideas with you so that you can help them genuinely. So because of that, you have to be patient. You also have to should be interested in building a long-term relationship if you're genuinely interested in serving an entrepreneur. And you too have to be curious and interested in learning, because first thing they'll expect you is to respect them, because they have a huge amount of knowledge about their business. So you have to be curious enough to understand their business, interested enough to learn about their business, what their pain points is, what makes them proud, what their success factors. You have to have that curiosity and interest in learning about their business. Then the other one that helps us to be a good service provider is you have to practice to be a good mentor and a business advisor. Because sometimes it's not a finance professional they need a good mentor, somebody who can give them the risks of doing something, like basically make them understand, okay, these are the risks that you're running. They may not listen to you, but does not mean they're ignoring. They're not ignoring you. What they will do is they will calculate that in their decision making. They'll calculate that in their decision making. But that advice is important, because that means in their decision making, they have factored that in. And that's something a lot of entrepreneurs don't have. They don't have good mentors. They don't have good business advisors. They have a lot of service providers, but they don't really have a good mentor who can tell them, not kind of tell them what to do, because I don't think they need that, because they are very skilled in their business, but somebody who can help them to evaluate the idea in a logical manner, telling them the pros, the cons, and also certain different options they can consider. Now, if you can be one of those mentors, I think that's a very, very valuable service that we can provide as financial professionals. Then also, if you want to service an entrepreneur, you yourself have to have a good business network, where they don't understand if you go to them and say, okay, I can only tell you about accounting, I don't know about tax, I can only tell you about costing. When you come to them as their advisor, they expect you to know all that. So if you don't know, you have to rely on your business network, find out what is right or what they need, and then pass the message on to them. So this is just to point out to you the choice you have, because as finance professionals, I think we can do well in both. Either we can do very well being entrepreneur. Like I said, you need to be aware, and you need to, because some of these things, if you see, as finance professionals, we don't really possess some of these skills, or those skills are not prominent in us, but you need to practice them consciously. But if you want to be also service provider, you need to understand we can't go as a basic finance professional. We need to adapt and change the services so that it will be useful and value add to the entrepreneurs. So then second is, I think I just thought I'll point out the basic entrepreneurship ecosystem. So there are a lot of different charts, but I find this for us very simple and understandable. So this is from the Center for International Private Enterprises. So they say there are 6 pillars that to focus on. That is the culture pillar, the support pillar, finance, markets, human capital, and the policies. So culture is, what they say is the societal norms and your role models. So what they say is entrepreneurs, this affects entrepreneurs because the acceptance of the society and the role models you rely on also is something that helps entrepreneurs in their journey. Then the support, which is the infrastructure and supporting professionals. Now, this is one area we can do a huge amount of service, because a lot of entrepreneurs don't get the right supporting professionals. So as a result, they get misled, they get misguided, and when they really want to grow and scale, you find they struggle. Because, for example, if they don't maintain proper books of accounts, when they really want to go for bank financing, they can't show the numbers. And then they get stuck with the bank not being able to give them. So sometimes that is because of the wrong advice they have got from these professionals. So having the right professionals to support is very important. And also the non-government institutions that support, like I think CMA does a lot of initiatives to support entrepreneurs. So those are very valuable support functions for entrepreneurs. Then finance, I think the two critical areas is focusing on your financial capital and focusing on your working capital. You need to have your working capital for you to do your business, day-to-day business on a continuous basis. And also the financial capital, every time you want to expand, you want to scale, or you want to try a new business, you need to have the ability to draw down on the financial capital. Then markets also, access to market, and also early customers, because the early customers are, I think, if you're a startup, that's what really helps you. So access to market and early customers, especially for a startup, is very valuable. Human capital is another one, skilled labor, and also the technical skills of the entrepreneur herself. So skilled labor, I think, is something that people are struggling at the moment, because with this COVID, I think there is a huge shortage of skilled labor, even in Sri Lanka and also globally. So skilled labor is something that you really need for you to grow your business. And finally, policies. So national policies and government institutions that help these entrepreneurs. Unfortunately, I know Professor Vatavella does a lot in this space. We have to get our national policies way more simpler and understandable for entrepreneurs to grow in our country, and also government institutions. We have so many institutions, and it's confusing as an entrepreneur as to who does what. So I think we really, if we want to grow that 52% and really contribute to the economy, this policy angle is another huge area that we need to focus and help the government also to simplify it so that entrepreneurs can do their businesses more effectively. Then I thought I'll just take you through a few perceived challenges which are supposed to be faced by women entrepreneurs. So these are what people say based on the ecosystem I said. So first is the cultural barriers. That is the role of female considered to be a homemaker with a male considered to be income earner, which is our traditional way of thinking in Sri Lanka. Then also the less acceptance socially of dual income families, where you keep saying, okay, if you're a woman, you need to stay at home and look after your children, and surely you can manage with one income. Why do you need two incomes? Which I think everyone understands is not an easy thing to do now. And also the media portrayal of role of women, because if you see, I think it's hopefully improving. Even our media portrays females in a very, I would say, in a weak manner, right? It doesn't really portray the strength we as women have. It doesn't portray us as entrepreneurs. They always portray us as the suffering wife or the suffering mother. So that also makes people automatically get this barrier that women are not capable. But very interestingly, I looked at this study IPS has done in collaboration with Oxfam in 2014, where they surveyed a group of men and women, and asked them about some of these questions. So one of the questions they asked was whether balancing business obligations with family responsibilities is harder for women entrepreneurs. So that was a question that they asked, whether balancing your business obligations and your family commitments, because I think as women, we can't get away from that. Whatever we become, entrepreneurs, business women, whatever we become, including the president or prime minister of this country, we do have family obligations. And I think as all women, we like it, we enjoy it, because our families are very important. So that's why I think they asked this question, is it difficult for entrepreneur women to do this balancing? And the results, if you see, were very interesting, right? So there were a lot of women, if you see, 67% of the women disagreed, right? 67% of the women disagreed. And they said, and there was 1.9 that strongly disagreed. Because they said, no, that's not a problem. We have always, women are fantastic at multitasking. And the women themselves, and even the men, I'm very happy to see 43% of the men also disagreed that it's a problem. And also when it came to the decision to start business, if you see, when you take the females, 36%, I was very happy with that. 36% said it is my own decision, and also 44% said they started it jointly with the spouse, which is fantastic. That means with the spouse, so you have both the male and the female perspective coming in. 44% started with their spouses. And so if you see, like, the responses, what I want to show this was, we always have this perception that female entrepreneurs are very different to male entrepreneurs. And if you see, the numbers are very similar. If you see, the numbers are very similar. So which is a good thing for females, that there is more acceptance of females in our society now. Plus also, the thinking of both the males and females seem to be somewhat very similar. Then the second one is lack of role models. So this is something, I think, also another thing that has improved, because now we see, I mean, the ladies who are here are definitely some role models we have of entrepreneurship. We do see a lot of women role models. And I think I would like to thank all of you for coming on to this panel. It's important for you to showcase yourself, talk about your journey, because that is something that motivates other women, and that's something that other women look up to. And if you see here, in the same study also gave some very interesting statistics. It asked the question, general acceptance towards women entrepreneurs has improved over time. And the women, 80% said agree and strongly agree, right? 29.3 strongly agree, 62% agree. And if you notice, 71% of the males that were surveyed said they agree. So that means males have also a good acceptance of females as entrepreneurs. So which is very good news. That means, I think, as culturally, we are really ready for more female entrepreneurs to grow and scale. Then the other one that females face is the lack of a good support system. That is the dependence on family with regard to childcare and elderly care, and also a lack of safe and secure services in the economy for childcare and elderly care if you don't have your family supporting. So here, I think this is one area we do have a problem. The second one, we don't really, I mean, there's a long way to go. It's improving again, but that's an area I think a lot of, donors, I believe even ADB is involved in that, ADB, IFC. IFC has a program, very active program on this childcare, to promote childcare in organizations. So here, support received from my family, if you see, 35.6% said is very good, and 59.6% said good. So that shows that for you to also, at the moment, you do need support from your family or your extended family. But the good thing is all these entrepreneurs seem to have good support. So that means it also shows that as families, which was not the case from what I remember, maybe 10, 15 years ago, families would resent women becoming entrepreneurs. They would say you're ignoring your family and you're becoming entrepreneurs. So you had to be a very strong lady. But now that seemed to have changed, because majority say they have got good support from their family. There's the low business capacity of women entrepreneurs, so lack of business acumen, lack of business development services, and less tenacity. Here, what happened was, if you look at the numbers here, this was I found very interesting. So they say women are not able to sustain businesses, but if you see more than 10 years, I think women and men go neck to neck. right? Women and men go neck to neck. There is no huge difference between the number of women, where more than 10 years. And if you see in certain areas, the figures vary slightly, but the women have a very strong presence, where the women are also showing that more than 10 years. I was very happy to see so many number of women entrepreneurs also going against the male entrepreneurs. Then the other one that that they asked the question was, do you need female specific business development services? And there are, if you see, another interesting statistic, it was 50-50. It was almost 50-50 because 40% or below said need female specific business development sectors. But there is also equal number that said we don't need specific business development sectors. And usefulness also, but they all agreed, whereas females agreed more that business development center. So that's another area, I think, as finance professionals, we are good at having this. We are very familiar. We know how to run business development centers. So some of the statistics for you to think of the potential, because females do seem to prefer and do seem to find it useful if there are business development centers. Then the real problem, access to finance. Women entrepreneurs limited access to finance. Now here, what I would like to categorically say is there is a lot of money available to female entrepreneurs. Every single fund that comes to Sri Lanka is allocating 10% for female entrepreneurs. The problem is the ability for female entrepreneurs to access those funds. Because even though there are funds, there are conditions, there's a way that you have to go to banks, the way that you need to ask for the loan, how you can justify why you need the loan. That skill is what is lacking. Another area that as finance professionals, we can add a whole lot of value. Because money is out there, the ability to access finance is what is holding the women entrepreneurs at the moment. See, if you look at this survey, and it asks the question, how support received from the financial organizations was good. And if you see, both males and females disagree, right? Majority is, and it's consistent to both males and females. So it's not only for females, even for males. But the good news is females are being, I mean, this is actually one of the best times to be a female entrepreneur. Everyone wants to support female entrepreneurs. And there is a lot of money being allocated to help female entrepreneurs. But you need to go with the right advice, and you need to go in a position that you're able to access the finance. Then inadequate policy and regulatory framework for women entrepreneurs. So here also what I want to showcase is it's not limited to men, females. It's the problem is there with male entrepreneurs also. So there is nothing in additional that has to be done. I think first, as a basic thing, we have to get these policy and regulatory frameworks up and make it more simple and conducive to entrepreneurs. Because if you see, 53% of males and 45% of females said they are bad, right? They are bad. The ones that said good probably had a better experience, but majority seems to consider it bad. Then poor data and evidence on women entrepreneurs on which to base policies and practices. There is absolutely no entrepreneurship database in Sri Lanka. So this is something the Women's Chamber is planning to work on. And I'm sure that number, my feel is that that number of 35% is going to go up, the contribution of females in this country once this database is done. We have little pockets of data in a lot of places, but there is no comprehensive database that helps us to analyze and helps us to also do policy advocacy for women. So the Women's Chamber tries to do a lot of policy advocacy, but this is a huge hindrance we have when we want to go to do policy advocacy and we want to champion certain policies. We don't have adequate data to support what we are asking. Then the last one is the use of technology. Potential to use online platforms for marketing not fully utilized, and lack of awareness of the latest technologies available. This statistics was taken in 2014, and I'm sure it has changed by now. One positive thing in coming from the pandemic is now every single person is good at technology, which is a huge boost. If you go and look at EDB, EDB has a marketplace that any entrepreneur can go and list themselves in, right? There are a lot of virtual marketplace. The chamber has signed up with WeConnect, which is a global platform for women entrepreneurs. So even places like Walmart, Costco, sorry, all those are participants in that marketplace who look for women entrepreneurs and who try to source from women entrepreneurs. So look for that kind of database and go and list yourself in those databases, because Sri Lanka is not adequate a market for you to grow and scale. Doing business only in Sri Lanka is not enough. But your target should be to go out there and to list yourself in global marketplaces. Fortunately, there are a lot of global marketplaces. Go to EDB. The EDB site also has one. You can contact the Women's Chamber. We also have signed up. We have a MOU with WeConnect. And through the Women's Chamber, you can also list yourself in the WeConnect platform. There are a lot of others also. But use technology. You have Uber and PickMe that does delivery. Uber delivery, PickMe delivery is there for business entrepreneurs. You have digital paying platforms. You have so many digital things. So as an entrepreneur, please, and if you plan to be an entrepreneur, this is one space you have your biggest advantage, and you need to go and learn what is available and out there. So to stop, I just want to give a very brief introduction to the Women's Chamber of Industry and Commerce. So Women's Chamber was established in 1985 as the first women's chamber in Sri Lanka. And from what we know, this is the first such women's chamber in the world. It's a not-for-profit organization. And at present, we have about 67 of our members are women entrepreneurs. And 33% of our members are business women. So if you're a businesswoman or a woman entrepreneur, that's a fantastic network for you to be in, because you have other high achieving and like-minded women entrepreneurs and the business women. And just to tell you a couple of the broad areas that we focus on, we actively participate in policy advocacy to ensure that the voice of women entrepreneurs and business women are considered in policy development. Every year for the annual budget, we have a roundtable with all our members to identify the issues that they have, the policies they want us to champion, and we forward a policy document to the government just before the annual budget is presented. In addition to that, we also submit other policy. We did a research recently about the barriers of accessing finance to women, which we presented to the central bank governor and the finance minister and a couple of ministers. And also now we are going to different banks to make them understand the hardships women have, so that the experience will become better and more productive, and women are able to access the financing properly. Then also we do capacity building, which to help women to participate and build your skills as entrepreneurs and also business women. Another area that we are championing is assisting women to aspire to take leadership roles, including contributing. We are championing a target of 30% women on boards. So that's another area we are focusing. And lastly, we are also focusing on giving dignity of labor for women who are engaged in a low-skilled employment. one of the areas we are doing at the moment is called the Cyrilia program. Because if you see, one of the problems the entrepreneurs have and also business women have is not having right level of skills to support your child care and elderly care. So with the Cyrilia program, what we are trying to do is to train the domestic aides and caregivers, put them through a skill building program, give them a certification, and also to build a basic resume for them, ask them also to help them to also get references from wherever they are working with a minimum pay. So we are targeting for domestic aides around 40,000, which is a doable one, because I would much rather pay that and be able to earn much more as a businesswoman. So that's but that will also help them. So we are trying to make it a job, not a favor, because if you see a lot of our domestic aid consider it a favor. I mean, they appear one day, they don't appear another day, and that disrupts us having to being able to contribute. So that's another program that we are doing, building the dignity of labor in this low skill, helping them to think of their what they do as a respectable job with a sustainable wage, and so that will help other women also to go and contribute in a bigger way to the economy. So that's my very few thoughts. I'm sure we'll hear much more valuable insights from the entrepreneurs that are there. So just want to leave this final thought, because I think this is something that resonates very well with entrepreneurs, because none of them want to be normal. But as women, I think if you are trying to be normal, we will never know how amazing we can be. So I think what we should all strive to be is not normal, break boundaries, and try to be amazing. So thank you, ladies. And thank you again for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Now I would like to invite Professor Lakshman Arvatawale, Founder President of CMA Sri Lanka, to launch the cost accounting literacy for women and say a few words about it.
I think there is a slide, they can put it on. Arinju, can you play the slide here? I think here it is mentioning about promoting women entrepreneurship development. Of course, that is our theme. And today we are launching the cost accounting literacy for women. So we are happy that our CMA and also from SAFA, Mr. Naika Bandara, would be able to join in this. Okay, next one. Right. I think already Ms. Anujidi has spoken to you of the importance of the finance area. Now, a lot of them forget about the cost accounting. So here we thought that we should bring this into focus on the cost accounting literacy for women, and to say what cost accounting is, and then of course looking at what it is. You have the direct materials, labor, then the fixed and variable costs, and of course whether you will have a contribution or margin from the items that you manufacture or service. Okay. Okay, next one. Right, here again, some of the important areas. That's of course on the break-even point, because if you are below the break-even point, you will lose. Of course, if you are above the break-even point, then you will make a profit. Then the importance of the working capital and the cash flow statements, which one should be aware of. Right. Then these are, of course, things that are of importance today on lean accounting and cost cutting. And I suppose if you are an entrepreneur, you need to look at this very carefully, and that may be the area that will help you to get your margins. Then, of course, what's the gross profit margin, what's the net profit margin, and of course, importance of the IT and communication skills, because IT is very important and for this. Okay. So if you do all these things, I'm sure the pathway is also open to you to become a management accountant with the knowledge not only of costing but also of the management accounting area. So we are happy to launch this program, and we will be making it available online, both in Sinhala, English, and Tamil. And we will call for registrations and conduct this program. And I'm sure that especially for women, this will be very useful, because they are really the best people who can manage the budget. So they not only have to look at income, but also the expenditure, and manage the finances very, very cautiously. So thank you. And I do hope that on this day of the Women's International Day, that we have launched a program that will be very useful to everyone, because costing is not a matter that anyone talks of. Many of them only speak of maybe spending the money. But we need to earn the money, then we need to control the money. And in today's situation, that's very, very important. So let me congratulate the International International Women's Committee, and also our keynote speaker, who's also gone a lot into the finance area and the entrepreneurship. And I'm sure that this will be very useful to all entrepreneurs. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next on agenda is a panel discussion moderated by Ms. Shamila Kure, General Manager, Operations at WNS Global Services Private Limited. Ms. Shamila Kure is a fellow member of CA Sri Lanka, a fellow member of CMA Sri Lanka, a fellow member of CIMA UK, a full member of CPA Australia, a fellow member of CPM Sri Lanka, and holds an MBA from University of Colombo. Ms. Shamila Kure is the chairperson of the CA Women Empowerment and Leadership Development Committee and represents SAFA Women's Committee. Joining us panelists are Ms. Chandi Maranasinghe, co-founder of Nasta Food Private Limited, Ms. Ranga Stephen Rodrigo, partner at Rodrigo's, Ms. Hiruni Bitanage, directress of Rimarco Bakers, Ms. Dashika Vikramasinghe, co-founder of Visha Group of Companies and managing director of Singapore International Education Private Limited, Ms. Charmian Kolambage, principal of Stepping Stones Montessori, and Mr. Takio Hoshino, financial sector specialist, Asian Development Bank. We also invite all our attendees to send in your questions and clarification on the question and answer and chat box. Over to you, moderator.
Thank you very much. First of all, let me thank Anujidi for a very insightful and very thought-provoking presentation. I think a lot of questions that the panelists had when I had the conversation with them in pre-preparation, how could the finance professionals would help them to bring their entrepreneurship to a greater stability and to a growth is being well addressed. Thank you, Anujidi. Thank you so much. So coming back to our panel discussion, before I commence, I think, you would all agree with me that there is a lot has been spoken about diversity and inclusion. And for a couple of years that we've seen, the gender equality has been one of the agenda item on the discussions recently. Also, surprisingly, the pandemic has given us a lot of proof that women are very capable, irrespective of the fact that they hold a designation or not. So how do we bring about these capabilities of women into the table is all our conversation is going to be for today's panel discussion. And specifically, I would like to bring the capability of women's as an entrepreneur throughout this 1 hour discussion. Before I move on to specific questions to the panel, let me invite each panelist to share their views on the topic of women entrepreneur development. Let me start with Chandima. Chandima, over to you.
Thank you, Shamila and Professor Wattawala, to giving me a great opportunity to sharing my thoughts with the eminent panel as well as the people. That's the today topic is promoting women entrepreneurship development. I think it's a more important topic in current context. Yesterday we celebrated International Women's Day. That UN theme for that day is gender equality today for sustainability tomorrow. It simplifies as break the bias. I strongly believe in the women can do anything. As per the published statistic in 2021 first quarter, female population in consists of 52%. Labor force participation is 33%. Gender-based unemployment rate is 90.6%, and consists of 14.7%. Education level is GCE, A-level and above. By promoting women entrepreneurship, we can convert unutilized resources to wheel of Sri Lankan economy, as well as a solution for social issues. Many international and local companies nowadays promoting women labor force to productive way by promoting of flexible working hours, given childcare, then part-time jobs, home-based businesses, and so on. If we can develop, promote, empowering women, unutilized women resources, we can, I think, convert positive way of Sri Lankan economic view. That's my view. Thank you.
Thank you, Chandima. I think something that we need to think about, the statistics itself is very evident of the fact that we have to give focus on there. Shamian, if I may ask your views on the topic today, on the women importance of development of women entrepreneurship.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'd like to say thank you to CMA for giving me this opportunity to be part of the panel. I as an educator, I think when I listened to Anujidi, and she gave us a lot of valuable input and described roles of an entrepreneur, and quite a lot of interesting points that she pointed out. I don't know whether I can call myself an entrepreneur, but I'm a passionate educator. And I've always seen the lack of opportunities that women face in our society. And when you look at our education system, where our statistics are showing great numbers of educated people. But when we look at our young people, there are so many young women out there who, once they finish their education in schools, they don't really know what to do with themselves. And I think with these young people, there is so much talent that we need to harness and opportunities to go into entrepreneurship. This is something that is lacking, and the school systems also are not opening the doors for that. We have become so streamlined in one area of academics, in the sciences or in the arts. But in between, we are not attentive to the children who have other skills. And thereby, I think, especially the women are getting left behind. So there is a lot of work to be done to help them to find their passions and pursue entrepreneurship, I think, in that area.
Thanks, Shamin. I think very valuable point in terms of whether our education system itself at the start of the career, start of the lives of a child, whether they are bringing that aspect of entrepreneurship into them is something that really needs to be looked into by the educators as well. Darshika, may I ask your views on the topic today?
Sure, Chandra. I think, thank you and good afternoon, everyone. I would like to actually thank CMA Sri Lanka for inviting me for this forum today. I think we had a very comprehensive keynote speech today with about women entrepreneurship with lots of data and facts. And it actually itself showcased how women entrepreneurship has been excelled in Sri Lanka. I think discussing about promoting women entrepreneurship itself is a big move in local as well as in global context. I agree with all my fellow panelists' views and opinions, but if I'm gonna add on to what they have already mentioned, today, if we take everything as a concept, today's perspective, the role of women itself in our society has changed drastically during last few decades, and not in a negative way, but for the betterment. Not only the corporate employee, but I think the entrepreneurship has been excel and it has been taken into a greater level. In terms of recognition, I think women entrepreneurship and entrepreneur has been recognized as an important untapped source of economic growth, where basically we know what does that mean is like due to different responsibility and different roles that we have to face as a women. So there is a point where the turning point, we have to take a decision whether we are going to continue our career path, or whether we are going to continue our career, or whether we are going to start our business. Likewise, yes or no answer, there is a turning point. I myself went through this cycle. So even though we have like inherited, everybody say, and we know that, so we inherited with multi-talented skill set. So we have to face this. So then again, if you take the local context and also the global context, it has been proved. It had the potential, capabilities and capacity, everything has been, irrespective of the challenges that we face, it has been proven as a success story today. So that is why you and me and everybody, we talk about women entrepreneurship. So women entrepreneurs, especially, we create jobs for us, as well as I think we create jobs for others and we inspire each other. So where actually we have a culture in as such, like we follow role models. I think this was clearly mentioned by our keynote speaker today, Ms. Anujidi. So having said that, with all these things, there has been an increase in trend in number of women-owned enterprises, and also as a result of this drastic change in the present world. Thanks to COVID and due to technical invention and everything. So we have technological driven working environment, which promote innovative business ideas as well. So especially solutions to most of the domestic issues that we face. For example, I'm trying to actually fix most of the pain points which I had during past few years through my all business ventures, especially newly added preschool, Singapore International Preschool. So having said that, so promoting entrepreneurship has a big responsibility in perspective of restoring and bringing back foregone economic contribution, which we have done. So now we have opportunity to give back. So while introducing this new business solution, I think it is a must. We should talk about promoting entrepreneurship, and we should discuss and create a platform for this. This is my view, Chamila.
I think Chamila has gone off, so maybe Hiruni, why don't you take over here?
Yes, thank you, Professor. Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much, CMA, for having me and giving me this golden opportunity to bestow my perspectives on women entrepreneurship. As Anuji clearly mentioned, if there is only 25% of women participation in women entrepreneurship, I think there is a considerable issue there, right? So if why don't the other 75%, at least 50% is not participating? So in my perspective, I see all these challenges into two segments, that is internal challenges as well as external challenges. Ms. Anuji, I think, covered almost most of it, but I will mention few. When it comes to internal challenges, I see self-confidence as a big challenge, because you need a lot of perseverance. As she clearly mentioned, if you're being an entrepreneur, regardless of the gender, the no word should not be in your vocabulary. So that will, the perseverance should be there. So not having that perseverance, not having self-confidence, I see a big issue in not having the right attitude towards, the positive attitude towards women entrepreneurship. And also having a work life, the life balance, which is personal, professional, and social life balance. We all know that we need to balance it, but the question is, how are we going to balance it? How are we going to manage that time which is required by everybody? Because you can't do business if you are having that guilt, especially with your kids and your husband. So you need a good support system if you are doing business. And other thing is not having the correct knowledge. As Professor just a while ago, he introduced a very good course. I saw it. And I think these are the things that we have to introduce into this, introduce to promote women entrepreneurship, because without having knowledge, without knowing every single aspect in your business, from cleaning to banking to everything, if you're an entrepreneur, you need to know every single thing, right? So you need to, especially in terms of finance. Therefore, those kind of courses will help a lot in overcoming these internal challenges of the knowledge gaps, especially. And when it comes to external challenges, of course, there are socio-cultural barriers which is kind of out of our control, but we should know how to balance, or how to balance that impact. So whether to fight or flight, that option we need to make a decision, right? So socio-cultural barriers, and especially in terms of accessing to funds, financial barriers, these barriers, that there would be impact into your business. Those impacts, we need to balance it out. And the other thing is, how are we going to promote women entrepreneurship? Especially these kind of awareness programs will help a lot. When it comes to sharing your own issues and getting insights to solve those problems. These kind of awareness programs will contribute a lot. And also mentoring programs. Mentoring is essential, especially in business, as Ms. Anuji correctly mentioned. In business world, there's there aren't a lot of mentors in businesses. So sometimes you feel very lonely and helpless. So you need to ask from somebody. So these mentoring programs will really help in promoting women entrepreneurship. Finally, the networking matters, regardless of the gender. Networking matters in businesses. So these kind of networks will strengthen the business relationships, and it will give a lot of opportunities to entrepreneurs to go ahead with their targets. This is my point of view in terms of promoting women entrepreneurs. Over to you, Chamila. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm really sorry. Though we say technology is helping us, it sometimes throws you into different challenges. I was worried, whether I would be able to continue or not. Thankfully, it was back. Let me move on to Ranga. Ranga, your thoughts on today's topic as to the importance of women entrepreneurship? Ranga, if you're speaking on mute.
Yes, I was. I'm sorry about that. Good evening, everyone. Thanks, Chamila. So I think a lot of us spoke about a lot of facts why women should become entrepreneurs and what is lacking and what is available for us. So I think one last thought I want to leave with everybody is probably we must learn to step out of our comfort zone. I find, having worked in different regions and worked with different customers in my previous chapter in my life, I think I found them to be very, very, they embrace opportunities that are given to them and they're not afraid to step out of their comfort zone. I think a lot of us are afraid to step out of our comfort zone because we are happy to do what we are doing and we continue to do that. So that is why I also feel entrepreneurship is not for everybody. It's for some people, and the rest of us have to, as was explained to us, has to be a service provider. But my advice is we live in a world which is so time poor. So if you have a passion and you like doing something, get out of your comfort zone and go and make the most of what you have. I think that is probably the thought I want to leave with the rest of the people who want to become entrepreneurs. And if you have a passion and you have a dream, I say you have to go and make that dream come true, because after all, dream is the language for your soul. And those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Ranga. I really like the fact that, you were talking about entrepreneurship is not for everybody. You need to find whether it is for you. So I think this whole conversation will help us to find out whether, how we could help people to find out whether they are having that knack in them, right? So let's move on to the next panelist. Takuya, sorry, I think I misspelled it. Let me ask your views also on the topic today.
Yeah, thanks, Chamila. This is Takuya Hoshino from Asian Development Bank. And thanks very much for inviting me to this very, very important, meeting for Sri Lanka. So let me share with my view from the macroeconomic point of view, because I think most of the panelists already addressed some issues related to women entrepreneurship at the individual level. But I would like to highlight the macroeconomic implication of the women entrepreneurship. As you may know, that Sri Lanka has already reached to the middle income stage. And if the Sri Lanka wants to transform from middle income stage to upper middle income, then definitely the country must be innovative. And for the innovation, definitely the diversification of the industries and also diversification of the players is critical. So that's why the women entrepreneurship development is necessary to make the society more creative and innovative. And also the Sri Lanka, is undergoing some aging population right now. And so this expected, labor shortages also must be complemented by the active economic participations by women. And I would like to, highlight that women entrepreneurs in Sri Lanka is concentrated on the micro and informal segment. According to the statistics, 27% of the micro segments are owned by women. On the other hand, in terms of the small and medium-sized enterprises, only less than 10% are women owned. So the right target is how we can support the transformation of micro women to more formalized small and medium-sized enterprises. And if we want to effectively support this transition, definitely access to finance is the key, because the growth must be supported by the external financing. However, the financial system in Sri Lanka is not conducive as expected, because the banks are focused on more like a collateral-based lendings, and women, informal women and micro women also has the capacity issue. And so the comprehensive reform package will be definitely needed to improve access to finance. I strongly believe that the policy, institution, financial instruments, and also evaluation and monitoring, those are the key areas that public policy can provide some solutions to those access to finance issue. So let me stop here, and thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Takia. I think we can go into more details as to how you, as a bank, could support ADB, would support us in to bring those innovation and transformation that you were spoken about in the next round of discussions. So let me start the specific questions from Chandima. Sorry, Anuji, I didn't wanted you to comment on the topic again because your speech is very comprehensive. But I will definitely have a very tough question for you to answer. But let me start with Chandima. Chandima, as we earlier spoke, Anuji was also mentioning, when you are in a permanent employment, you have this fear of, should I let go of a permanent employment, a fixed income that I have, and get into a total unknown area, and I had to learn everything from the scratch. But you are a person who did that. So what was making you to take that decision, and how did you manage specifically the mental transformation from being away from a permanent employment and get into a entrepreneurship?
Yes, Chamila, I agree with your comment because 14 plus years I am comfortable with fixed income level. Then several times I want to become an entrepreneur, but I am restricted to how I manage my kids' education expenses, especially repayment of loans and other commitments. It's fortunately in 2017 I started my MBA at PIM. Then I choose as a final project is entrepreneur skill project. I learned a lot from Dr. Travis Pereira and Mr. Champal how to become a good women entrepreneur. Then that's my start point. Then I really think I can move to a professional career from a fixed income basis. I can go for the consultancy things. I started as a consultant for SME people Then I engage with a lot of institutions and communities. And I learn a lot from free seminars and workshops, attending workshops and so on. Then and also I engage with institutions like Women Entrepreneur, on the Women Chamber of Commerce, then at Powder and Good Market and many other SME entrepreneur development program or institution. I learn a lot. Then after few months or after 1 year, I realize if I want to become a good consultant, I have to put their shoe. It's like I have to start my own venture. If without start our own venture, we give predetermined answers or guesses. Is that one is a second thing I want to become start new venture. And 2020 we started Nesta Food Private Limited as a solution for healthy food and food stuffs. Then that period is we are facing many challenges from COVID period. It's country is closed down for many months. Then we also faced food requirement and delivery and also quality of their foods. And we think and we as a family we discuss with each other how to overcome this gap. Then and also I saw where that vacuum is there in the consumer market, and also I validate my point with Dr. Ravi Edirisinghe is a group CEO of that holdings. Then I think that's the point I started my own venture. And also major thing is my younger son is not addicted into the online sessions. He is supporting everywhere, asking for my mother or myself. Then it's very difficult to doing permanent job. Oh, that's the point I have to take a decision. If I am continue my professional career or fixed income basis, or if I have to go for the managing everything in successfully. That's the things important courses for starting my own venture. And also we are as a family, we are discussing each other which resources we are already having. Especially in my mother-in-law is a special for spice, Sri Lankan authentic spices maker. So that's the opportunity I get it. And so then we started from tea products. Then I got support from my friends. Eddie Markey he is a tea taster. I learned a lot from him. Then after that, my 10-year-old young elder daughter is supporting to me create website, create logo, and do a digital marketing things. And those area we getting in from my home. Then it's something we are shaping our skills, and we do it collaboratively. And those things we are managing successfully. We are getting in right path to in food sector, and also we are now we are in good situation, and we are. I think Nesta Food is known many people in Colombo, many people in Colombo as well as in suburb. Thank you, Chandra.
Yeah, so Chandra, I think what you have done is you make sure that your next move is being researched well in advance, and you have taken all precautions that you will not go wrong there, and make yourself comfortable mentally before you make that move, which helps you to be in success business today. Shamian, let me move on to you next. When I spoke to you, what I realized was that as much as the education, the qualification helps you, the experience in a area that you are interested in also would make somebody comfortable in getting into their own venture. You started your career 20 Montessori and in Nigeria, but today you own your own chain of Montessori in Sri Lanka. How do you relate your experience and how it was giving you the strength and comfort of moving on to a successful entrepreneur?
Yeah, as you said, I started my career. Was when I was 21, which was a very long time ago. So it's a long story, I think. I'll try to make it as short as possible. Yes, I accompanied my husband to live in Nigeria, where he started employment. And I had just finished my diploma in Sri Lanka, doing a Montessori diploma. And we traveled and we were moved to a very remote part of Nigeria. It was really a bush country sort of place. And there I started working in a little preschool, where the school was run by the nuns. And they actually had absolutely no idea what Montessori was. So we had no equipment. We barely had a small classroom, but what we had was the most wonderful, energetic, lovely children. And there I discovered for the first time, I think, the devotion that those people had for education. So that made my job a lot easier, but it also gave me an opportunity to develop a lot of innovative skills to bring the Montessori philosophy into the classroom. And I think in many senses, looking back, it's probably the most inspiring part of my career, working with those kids, seeing all the drawbacks they had, and yet the wonderful thirst to learn was there. And now, many years later, I find that Nigeria today hosts some beautiful Montessori schools, which actually do maintain and do nurture the true philosophy of Montessori. And these schools have been made possible through the Black movement from America. So these Montessoris have been supported. There are wonderful trained teachers. And it kind of made me sad because Sri Lanka was a pioneer of Montessori when I was growing up. And I look now around me, and it is a sad fact that there are very few schools that profess to be Montessori that do actually follow the philosophy. Partly because of our whole education system, the emphasis to compete. And this has kind of destroyed the Montessori philosophy. Going back to my journey, from Nigeria a few years later, we moved to Australia. And I would think my 10 years of work in Sydney is probably where I discovered Montessori for the first time, where I understood the true philosophy, the depth of it, and saw the actual Montessori education work, how beautifully it worked in those classrooms. For me, it was a journey where I had to really start from the bottom, because I went with a Sri Lankan qualification, but I had to prove myself. I was very blessed because I worked with really great colleagues who gave me lots of opportunities, but it was hard work. There in Australia, teachers have to do all the cleaning of their classrooms. They are responsible for most things that happen in the classroom, preparation of materials. This was to me a great training, because I think I realized that a teacher's role is one of the key features a teacher has to possess is humility. And doing all this work made me realize that. And it always complemented the Montessori method, because a Montessori teacher is not somebody who merely imparts knowledge. We just create a learning environment. And from that, children are given freedom to make choices, to work in collaboration or work singly. Children have a lot of opportunity to make choices. So I actually learned about the Montessori system in my time, and then I did have opportunities to pioneer the Montessori, what we call 0 to 3. That is the very, very young children. And I, with my directress, my principal, we started a group like that in one of the schools in Sydney that I worked in. And that was the first of its kind, where little toddlers came in for a couple of hours to the classroom, accompanied by a parent or a carer. And it was a beautiful experience and a great way to introduce these little ones to Montessori. So I was given that wonderful opportunity to kind of pioneer something, and now I know that 0 to 3 classrooms in Montessori are very common and very popular. It sort of also helps parents to spend more time in Montessori's environment, understanding what their toddler is going to go to in later in the 3rd year. I also began to see that how Montessori worked with children, the whole system of it, the attributes it had, what the children's empowering them. And we know we often talk about character building. So the Montessori system is always building the child and in encouraging him in his environment, where there's 3 age groups working together. There's a lot of, as I said, collaborative studies, and it is their work, as we call them, using the equipment, working with different setups that the teachers put together. The child is building his inner self, realizing there's a lot of repetitive work which drives him to kind of fine-tune it, to perfect it, and all that is allowed within a Montessori classroom. And this, to me, is character building. So when a child leaves the Montessori classroom and these formative years, many of us know that in the first 5 years, a child learns 1/3 of his whole human potential. But often we don't harness it in schools because we stifle it with rote learning and this drive to compete. So they lose that actual inner building ability, which is the most important. And I, in my years, have been so blessed to be in touch with my alumni students who are now gone to different parts of the world in universities. And also, many of them are doing very diverse fields, not just academics. There are some who have chosen the arts, some who have actually gone into agriculture with their parents. So it opened the doors for them because they had that inner strength from these very formative years to choose what their path was. And perhaps some of them will go on to become great entrepreneurs. So that from Australia, I then moved to Sri Lanka, where I set up my school, Stepping Stones Montessori. And now this is our 21st year. And we have done a lot of work, and all my work has been made possible because I've been very blessed with very committed, hardworking staff members. And also that we, throughout the 21 years, we were fortunate to have groups of parents who were equally committed, not just about their own children, it was about community projects. So apart from the usual donations to cancer hospitals and eye camps and donations when flood victims, we were able to do two big projects. One was we helped set up a school in Lanka, where those children had absolutely no access to preschool. And we trained a teacher from there, and she was also a great inspiration for me because she came from the estate sector. She didn't speak Sinhala or English, and she had to travel from one of my parents very kindly offered to home her. So it meant she had to travel by bus a long distance. And this was during the war. And the commitment with which that young woman came to school daily and trained with me for 1 year, and then went on to be the principal of that little school in Lanka, and still runs a beautiful school and serves the community. So this is also forms of entrepreneurship, but I mean it's mostly charity. Our second project is actually a very project that I hold very dear to me, and I think I was extremely blessed to find donors from Sweden. The Bamse Folgate company, which is a well-known Swedish company that does more like cartoon figures and cartoon books, and they're known throughout Scandinavia. And they gave us a huge donation to build a school in Ratgama after the 2004 tsunami. So we built a school. Shamila, I can't see you. Is it possible for somebody to share the pictures of the school?
Sure. Shanti, if we can bring about the two slides.
Can you see?
Yes. So
yes.
This was the land when we went to Ratgama, and it was a temple land, disused, as you can see, very neglected. And it was a 2-year project in the running. And my parents from my school formed into a group. There were sociologists, lawyers, accountants, just stay-home moms who gave so much of their time training these girls from the village with English as a second language, computer skills. And 70 girls from the village came down to Colombo to Stepping Stones Montessori, and I trained them throughout the building time. Can we switch the slide, please, Shamila, now?
We'll go to the second picture.
Yes, please. So we transformed that land into this. And the picture right, the building right in front was really a kind of a dance hall. It served as a community center. When I see that, it brings such wonderful memories. We did lots of training, teacher training programs for the Galle district there. Two of my colleagues from America and Australia came down, and we did a very intense month of training, and we spent 2 days in Galle, where 30 teachers from different parts, schools in the Galle district attended, and we had training programs. There were lots and lots of outreach programs that happened within the school. So at the back, you see the classrooms and an office complex. There was a kitchen.
Yeah, Charmaine, I'm sorry, I might have to disturb you here.
Yes.
We'll take some of these experiences of you, which has brought this a donation and relationship back into back into Sri Lanka, and helping the rural areas to develop further in our second round. If we have time, I'll just move on to the other panelists because we have a limited time in hand. Darshika, may I come to you with this question? I think, over the discussions that we had, what we understood was that sometimes, the situation forces you to get into entrepreneurship. Sometimes it's a knack within you that you really wanted to be differentiated. You don't want it to be a permanent employee of another organization. And wonderfully, you had both. So if you can share with us, how did you use your interests and the challenges you face in your life to becoming an entrepreneur and opening up Visha for a different purpose and serving a different purpose?
Thank you, Shamila. I think very comprehensive question to answer. But then again, I think in order to become an entrepreneur, I believe you should have to have in this inbuilt desire. That is a foundation for sure. That was very well explained by the previous honors as well, the entrepreneurs. So having said that, as you said, I also went through the same path as others. When I started my corporate career soon after my graduation, so I fortunate enough, to get different experience with different corporates. So it itself clicked me one day. So I was in private sector, I was in government sector, so I had both experience. So then one day actually it clicked me, it's not the forte. I was into corporate finance and worked almost 10 years in the industry, but fortunately or unfortunately, I had 2 breaks because of my kids. I gave the priority by that time for the family. Then again, I realized as I told you, it clicked me, it's not gonna work out me neither being a housewife, nor a traditional, corporate employee, because any of the organization didn't fit into me, because I was always looking for a learning opportunity, as well as was trying to go beyond on what they were expected. But in the corporate world, it didn't work out. So then, having said that, for me, every day was a challenge, especially having 2 small kids and balancing everything was quite challenging. That is a turning point. So I had to face that turning point in my life. So then that inbuilt desire in myself, to have my own venture, so then helped me to start my Visha concept. So Visha concept is all about SME sector. We know that SMEs are the backbone of our economy, which contributes more than 52% to GDP contribution and the importance. So understanding the importance, especially I did a small research while I was doing my MBA. So they found out, as Chandima also said, there are gaps in the SME sector, a huge gap in related to the knowledge and especially the expertise. Since I had that passion of helping others from my childhood, I wanted this was discussed, me and husband, when we were in the university itself. So this inculcated desire to help others pushed me to build this Visha business model as the knowledge platform for SMEs, which I incorporated in 2017. So it was, it is not an easy journey. It was really, really challenging, I would say, because we built the platform to share our knowledge with the SME sector, as well as for them to help them with the implementation. So I have 3 pillars in my model, where this challenge challenges came into the scene, because the demand side, there are SMEs, and the supply side, I have my professional team members who help me with their expertise and also with the experience to contribute and fill these gaps with SME companies. On the other side, SME, they were struggling to find right partners, right business partners. We work as a bridge between all three pillars, providing the best lean business solutions, which is almost like comparatively affordable to SME sector. So the model was well accepted by the market. And since I also follow the lean business model, it has been well progressive during last 3 years. So basically, I felt that is my passion, and I was like day by day improving our model, the service level, the processes and everything. So basically, Visha Ventures came into the scene 2 years back, and where we expanded our service horizon from startup to PLC, because Visha Ventures Private Limited is a licensed sponsor to list SMEs on the Colombo Stock Exchange. So Visha, we transform SMEs, and Visha Ventures, we take them into the capital market and help them to become a PLC. So the life cycle of SME was touched by us, and we provide that services. So it's quite challenging because SME sector is not, it's not an easy go. So then coordinating all three pillars, SMEs, service providers, and also the professional team members was very challenging. But my perseverance and the passion towards helping SMEs so far, drive me forward, and we have like come a long way for last 3 years.
Thank you, Darshika. It was very inspiring concept, and I'm glad that you explained the concept as to, because one of the challenges that we discussed earlier is that the SMEs does not have the affordability to get the services of professionals, which you have given a solution, and I'm glad that we could discuss about it on this forum. So moving on to Hiruni. Hiruni, the perception that anybody would have is, when the business is being done by your parents and you have been handed over a successful business that your parents have done, your life is very easy go. And you are an individual who has owned a very renowned business, which is Remarco Bakers, from your parents. Does this perception hold true? Or do you think that it's more challenging than it was run before? Would like to hear what your thoughts are.
Yeah, you see, Shamila, now a lot of people think like this, when they think that we are already in the comfort seat when it is handed over to us from our parents as the second generation. But which is not true, honestly, because as the second generation, yes, of course, I am benefited from my father and mother, who jointly started the business, and I am coming from a women entrepreneurship background, especially with my mother coming into the business with my father. But as a second generation, the pressure is more than what everyone else thinking, because when we take over the business as a second generation, we have to sustain, one thing is we have to sustain what they have achieved so far. That pressure is coming to you. And the second thing is we have to grow beyond what they have achieved. We have to take the brand locally as well as globally. That requirement is there. That pressure is onto us. So we have to take the business into the next level, right? So that pressure is especially coming from your own family, is much, much larger than if you are the only person who's managing the business, And other thing is, sometimes the first generation don't understand the current trends, so we have to communicate it to them, but sometimes they don't understand what we are saying. And other thing is, our level of experience is lower than them, so that generation clash is also over there. And at the same time, they're expecting a big thing from you. And so all these pressures we have to manage when we are doing the business. Yeah, of course, we have the enough knowledge and all the education level, the competencies are there, but practical world is totally different from what we have learned in the universities or in the books. So it's all about networking and all about experiences, perseverance, and constant high level of self-confidence. And balancing pressure is also a key thing in family businesses. Yeah.
Thank you, Hiruni. I think this is something that you definitely get from many people to say, you know, you're running something that has been established, but your challenges are totally different that, you know, being perceived from the market itself. Ranga, let me move on to you next. I know you started the conversation with me itself saying that you are not an entrepreneur, but you're supporting your husband, who's an entrepreneur. I do believe you are part of the entrepreneur environment and holding that responsibility, though you are saying that you are a supporter. But just wanted to understand, you were in an apparel industry over 20 years. You were not part of the business or the nature of business that your husband is doing. And then you gave up your permanent employment and decided to join the employment or entrepreneurship of your husband. What skills and competencies of your job that you were doing previously has helped you to be supportive of this entrepreneurship of your husband and be continuing as an entrepreneur?
Okay, so why I say I'm not one is because I walked into it at a very different stage in my life, not by choice. As you said, I've been in the apparel trade for over 20 plus years, and I was in a very comfortable stage. And some of us were offered a VRS and that is something I thought, let me take it and see where this is going to lead me, because I thought it's good to have a little break. I worked continuously and, do some of the things that I thought I lacked. I don't do enough, like spending time with my mom, my husband's mother, and, things like that. But then, lo and behold, COVID came to Sri Lanka and the apparel trade was literally in turmoil and everything was closed down. Basically, the country shut down. And so we used to spend a lot of time in the evenings just chatting because there was nothing else we could do. A lot of my husband's family and friends, because he comes from a background of restaurateurs. So they were all pressurizing him to at least put some lampreis out in the market because people were so tired of eating food at home. And my husband, being his old-fashioned way, said, oh, let me call a few of my friends and let me ask them whether they want a few lampreis. And I kind of said, no, maybe you need to do a little graphic because, people are in the WhatsApp page and, our neighborhood group had a WhatsApp group in case the, Highland butter came and we ran to get the butter. So people were communicating like that. And that was the start, I think, of these WhatsApp groups we are having today. So I created a little graphic for him to sell his lampreis, and well, the rest is history. Now I'm, totally involved, and I enjoy working in the bakery and doing all that. Compared to the garment industry, even the food industry has a lot of similarities. It's basic 4 pillars that I always thought about when I was in the garment industry that we still do in our food manufacturing as well. We look at product, what is our unique offering? How do I make it better so the flavors bring back memories from what customers used to have long ago? And of course, availability of the product, and how do we innovate? So that is something we always look at. Second is price. We always believe you have to have value for money. So that's something I did in the garment trade as well. how do I make this product work? I mean, it could be a fantastic product, but if it wasn't the right price, nobody's going to buy it. And of course, the values, inculcating the right value and the right culture in our team is very important. I always tell my team, attention to detail. If you were a customer, would you be purchasing this? Always open your eyes and see what you cannot see. So those are basic things I always told my team, the factories I used to work with, and of course, customer intimacy, very, very important. And I grew up in that culture where customer was the center of everything we did. We were always told, be the easy button to your customer, and, working in very multinational, dynamic people, you always had to have kind of anticipate what they were looking for and be sensitive to their cultures, because working with an American versus working with somebody in Israel is very, very different. So you tend to have empathy. And that is something we have to have in our product also today. So that is part of the pillars that I work with. And then, of course, social media presence is very important. Having worked with brands like Calvin Klein and Speedo and Victoria's Secret, they are all out there in the social media market. So that's something I had to explain to my husband and say, this is how we do it. He's of the view that food kind of, the best type of advertising for food is through people consuming it and marketing, but you have to have the social media presence. So that is one of the other things that I feel I brought in to the business from my previous background. And also, innovation. You have to evolve your product consistently, evolve your processes, so you bring in efficiencies, and also invest in people. So those are some of the things. So it's strange. I sometimes think, when I sit back and connect the dots now, I think maybe this is how it was meant to be. But it's now that I see that. I didn't see it 2 years ago. My final, I'm cutting it short because we are running out of time. But I think my final thought was, I want to leave that. And my former country manager used to always tell me, Ranga, when preparation meets opportunity, that is your luck. And I always told him back, well, luck happens when faith gets tired of waiting. But I believe he's right. I think all these years, my preparation was for me to be where I am today, and to live my passion. So that is what it is for me now.
Thank you, Ranga. I would love to have some more time if I had to continue with all these inspiring, interesting stories, but unfortunately, the time in my hand is tight. So let me quickly move on to Takia. I recently saw that you have introduced small, medium-sized enterprise line of credit, third additional finance, where it specifically says that the bank's outreach to businesses led by women has been increased, and it has been considered in this specific product that you have launched recently. Can you explain what are the facilities women entrepreneurs or businesses led by women can obtain from this particular facility?
Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much, Shamila. So ADB has actually introduced this, SME line of credit project back in 2016, and we supported women entrepreneurs from the beginning. But in 2018, we got a large grant support from the Women Entrepreneurs Finance Initiative. This is a multi-donor fund. And so since 2018, we expanded our support for women entrepreneurs, both financial support and also the technical assistance support. So I would like to introduce one video that explains what we are doing through this SME line of credit project. So could you kindly upload the video on the screen?
Can we have the video running?
Thank you.
මට හිතෙනවා මොකක් හරි මගේම ව්‍යාපාරයක් පටන් ගන්න ඕනි කියලා. මේ ප්‍රදේශයේ විශේෂිත වගාවක් පේර. අක්කර දෙකක ප්‍රමාණයක ඉඩමක් බද්දට අරගත්තා. අරගෙන පේර වගාවට යොමු වුණා. කෘෂි උපදේශක මිස් මාව යොමු කරලා තිබුණා ආසියානු සංවර්ධන බැංකුවේ පුහුණු පාඨමාලාවකට ගොඩක්ම කළමනාකරණය ගැන ඉගෙන ගත්තා. සෑම බැංකුවකටම වගේම මං ගියා මගේ ව්‍යාපෘති වාර්තාවත් එක්ක. එයාලා හැම කෙනෙක්ම ඒක ඇගීමකට ලක් කරා. ඒ වාර්තාව හොඳයි කියලා. එහෙනම් මට බයක් හිතුන්නේ නැහැ. ඇත්තෙන්ම මට ලක්ෂ 8ක් හම්බුණා. ඒකෙන් 30ක් ග්‍රාන්ට් එකක් මට හම්බුණා. තව අක්කර දෙකක ප්‍රමාණයක් අලුතෙන් අරගෙන ඒකට පෙර පැල ජලය සපයා ගන්න ලොකු ලින්දක් නල මාර්ග ඔක්කොම මම ඒ මුදලින් ගොඩක් ක්‍රමානුකූලව සකස් කරගත්තා. ඒ වගේම මාත් එක්ක මුලින් වැඩ කරා දෙන්නයි මා ළඟ හිටියේ. දැන් කාන්තාවන් 6 දෙනෙක් වැඩ කරනවා. ඒ වගේම ස්ථිර වෙනම සේවකයෝ දෙන්නෙක් වැඩ කරනවා. දැන් නම් මම ගොඩක් වෙලාවට දඹුල්ල විතරක් නෙවෙයි කොළඹ ආර්ථික මධ්‍යස්ථානයේට ඒ වගේම පිටරට යවන අය පවා ඇවිල්ලා මෙතනින් මගෙන් පේර මිලට ගන්නවා.
Okay, so thank you very much for watching this video. And I would like to highlight that our ADB's financing facility to provide both the long-term loan and also grant that covers 10% of the loan principal is still available until the end of this year. And we have 13 licensed banks as our implementation partners. And so if you have a good business ideas, then please approach to one of those 13 banks, and then you may get more detailed information about our facility. So let me stop here, and thank you very much for watching the video.
Thank you, Takia. I think I would request CMA if there is a possibility to obtain these list of banks, and if it can be shared with the membership so that they could also communicate to their respective clients of the members who are serving. That will also expand their opportunity to get into these facilities as well. My last question of the day, I think because of the timing, is for you, Anuji. You have worked in many of the SME upliftment activities throughout the last 2 years, representing different professional organizations. In your experience working in different regions all over the country, is there a willingness of women to become an entrepreneur? And if it's not, what is the biggest fear? What is the biggest challenge that they have in them that they don't want to be entrepreneurs?
So that's an interesting question, because I think if you look in our regions, entrepreneurship is more a need than a choice. Because I think a lot of those women become entrepreneurs because they are forced to be entrepreneurs. I mean, either the husband loses the job or like they are widowed. So the most of them, if you see majority that you find, what they say is that they had no option, but they had to become entrepreneurs. But saying that, I think all those women are also, once they get into that entrepreneurs, they're very, very determined and hardworking entrepreneurs. So the chamber is actually trying to reach to the provinces a lot, because we feel there's a lot of potential that we need to harness and help them to upscale, because they master the skill of business, but they are stuck sometimes in a particular area because of lack of assistance coming their way. So, Professor, I think I must congratulate you, and I think I will also reach out to you to showcase this costing to the Women's Chamber entrepreneurs also, because we've always, like, I think about more than 90%, what we find is the costing is wrong. And even though most of them think they are making a lot of money, they're selling at a loss. They haven't costed the product properly. They haven't, especially, I mean, there are a lot of them who put in their own time and they don't even cost that in to their products. So I think the entrepreneurship, we find it more, so it depends also. I think some areas, the outskirts, if it's a rural area, you find it's more a need than a choice. But now I went to Kurunegala and I found some young women who have by choice become entrepreneurs. So they were very, very passionate and they seems very interested in becoming entrepreneurs. So I think it's changing, like what I think some of the other ladies also said. The perception that entrepreneur is not a career choice or like a choice in life is changing. And frankly, if you see a lot of younger ladies, even while they're in school, they're doing little businesses. They're buying and selling, they're on eBay, which is fantastic, I think we should all encourage our young children, to females and males both, because that gives them the sense of entrepreneurship. And the ones who have the deeper passion will continue on. So I think, Shamila, on the interest of time, I think I'll stop. So thank you very much again for the opportunity.
Thank you, Anujidi. Yeah, unfortunately, we are limited with time, but had I had the opportunity of spending some more time, I'm pretty sure these inspiring stories will inspire many more who will join this panel discussion on today on the celebration of International Women's Day. But given that, you know, our time is limited, I would probably conclude our discussion here. Few remarks that I wanted to bring into the table on our discussion is that, you know, our education system needs to be supporting the entrepreneurship at the early stage of the careers of children. And there is support that needs to come in from the supportive system around us, may it be family, may it be our friends, may it be our professional institutions, to bring the entrepreneurship of the women specifically into the table. And also something that was very inspiring that came in on some of the discussions was that there are a lot of women who are inspired to be on entrepreneurship. It's just that you don't really understand their business, way of business, but you're trying to be, you know, act professionals at times on your services, which needs to be catered into addressing their needs rather than you selling your expertise to them. So thank you very much. You've been a wonderful panel and sharing your thoughts and experience amongst all the participants. Let me hand it over back to EMC. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Chamila Kure and our panelists for the day, and all the respected speakers for all the knowledge and experience imparted on us at this invaluable juncture. As we have come to the end of today's proceeding, I now cordially invite Professor Lakshman R. Vatawala to deliver the closing remarks.
Thank you very much. I think we have listened to a very, very important and also interesting seminar that we had, and a lot of you with a lot of experience that has come in. And just to tell something about what CMA has been doing on the SME sector, straight after the problems that we encountered on the COVID-19 pandemic, we set up what is called the CMA Sri Lanka COVID-19 SME Development Committee. And that has been operating since April 2020. And of course, all our meetings has been online. Now, we have been doing a lot of work. One of the initial maybe the matters that we identified was the lack of collateral and also the inability for the SME sector to get loans. Now, we really, I think, I'm sure Mr. Takio Hoshino must be aware of this, because, you know, there was a project earlier, but unfortunately, although it was given a lot of publicity, it was approved, ultimately they did not go about it. Then we were able to look at this, and then we took up this matter to say that this is one of the most important things, to set up a SME credit guarantee institution. Because this was a matter that everyone was speaking of. So then we saw that there was this project that had been laid by. Also, when we looked at the maybe the documentation, it was still in the pipeline of the ADB projects. So then immediately we went and met the Minister of Industries. We told him this is the great need of this country. Then he immediately listened to us and he put up a cabinet paper. And then this cabinet, of course, it was going up and down. And in the meantime, we also had a lot of seminars. One was in Hambantota, where the Honorable Prime Minister came, and we were also able to take up the matter with him. And at that, there were 11 banks, Mr. Takia, who participated. 11 banks. We had 350 of their customers at this conference that we had on the SME conference. That was in November 2020 that we had it. That time the climate was good so that we could have it. And of course, the Honorable Prime Minister came as chief guest. The Industries Minister was there. Very many more ministers who came and supported it. So then, fortunately, ultimately, I think in this last year by about April, May, the cabinet approved this project of setting up the SME credit guarantee institution. So fortunately, of course, when we discussed with the ADB, they said, don't worry, because since this project has already been evaluated, these projects have been, funding has been there, that we will be able to expedite it. And I think at the moment, they are working it. They are going to have the partner banks who will be providing the funds, and then of course this guarantee fund will be available. So we are hopeful that by about June, July, that this will come through. And I must thank Mr. Tapia Mushino for, I think, a project that was abandoned, which we were able to create. I think, although from our side, we somehow was able to make this. So these are some of the things that we have done. So I was really encouraged when I saw what the ADB has done. You know, that's how I really got the details. And I said, please invite Mr. Takio, because you are the only male. You know, you are our savior. You know, and you are the one who can really provide whatever resources that we need to help all these women who have really built up their enterprise. So you can see the amount of work that they have done, the good things they have done, and how we can really make it successful. Your video that we saw with the rural people, because they are the real people who can really develop this country. So we feel that you all are doing a great job, and I think most of them, we have the professionals here. Now, one of the areas that we thought that on International Women's Day, we must do something that will help the women folk, especially the SME entrepreneurs. So we thought that everyone is talking of so many things, but no one is talking about the cost. Cost is the most important thing, whatever that you do. If you are unable to produce at a reasonable cost, certainly you will not be competitive. Today, if you can see the problems that this government is having on foreign exchange, on various problems that they're having, it's all connected with cost, because you buy something at a world market price and then you have to sell it. So then if it is at a lower than the cost, who's going to meet the deficit? You may do it once, twice, but I don't think that you can do it continuously. So I think Sri Lanka knows all these things, all these problems were mentioned in the government budget, but ultimately they should have taken what our entrepreneurs have done. They have made things happen, but unfortunately, government thinks that money will just flow in, but that doesn't happen. But I'm sure that today the seminar has given new thoughts, new ideas, and also encouragement to a lot of our participants who were present here. And I'm happy that we were able to organize it. So I must thank our keynote speaker, Ms. Anujidi. I know the keen interest that she's taking on the SME sector, then all our other panelists, then of course the chairperson of the Women's Committee, then Ms. Shanti, who's been behind everyone, connecting with them and doing it. So it's really a teamwork that has made this possible. So I must thank every one of you, because promoting entrepreneurship development is very important, because what they find is that if we are able, because especially now with this current problem, pandemic situation, working from home, if we can make that a success, definitely the number of women who are going to work will definitely increase. Then that means they will make a significant contribution to the economy of this country, to their families, for their well-being, for the economic growth. So everything will change. So these are things that we can't wait for the government to do, but we can do from our side. So that's what I feel that you as entrepreneurs have done excellent. You are not going to ask the government to maybe fund them, but give us a loan. Give us a loan at a reasonable rate. I think Mr. Takua is there. He'll fund 30%. If your expenses, he will fund. So now those funds are available. So we must tell our entrepreneurs that these are available and we can do it. So let me once again thank each and every one of you, and also our compeer Kani for the very well excellent job done, and the Women's Committee. I would invite all of you to join our Women's Development Committee and take it forward so that we can continue what we are doing. And you can also, I will invite some of you all to come for we have a weekly meeting on this COVID-19 pandemic, and we can have a separate one for the development of women entrepreneurs, and to assist those who are already in business, both the micro and of course the SME sector. And as Mr. Takia mentioned, we should be able to get more people to go into the SME sector. Now that's very, very important, because I'm sure a lot of things that he mentioned on the micro area, a lot of them will do, but we need to now get the organized sector and to come. So once again, let me thank each and every one of you for your very, very active participation. And also our compeer, I think you did a very, very excellent job, and all the panelists gave up their experiences, which were really lessons that everyone could learn and maybe use it for their future betterment. And also all our staff, Shanti, our technical person, Tarindu, and all others who assisted us. And may I wish you all the very best. And I'm sure that the International Women's Day 2022 will bring you a lot of new ideas, new success. And let me wish you all the very best. And please keep in touch with us so that we can take forward the messages that we learned today, and with your support, that we'll be able to play a major role in promoting women entrepreneurship development. Thank you and all the very best.
Professor.
Okay, thanks. Uskani, you have any final words or? She's gone. Okay, so thanks everyone, and we'll now close up. Although we said 5, I think we've gone half an hour, but definitely everything was worth. We have recorded it, and we will also make it available to all of you all, and you can send it to your other clients and customers. Thank you and all the best.